One question I think every rider has asked themselves at some point is, are those more expensive goggles really worth it? What do I get over the more affordable set? And most importantly, is it worth my hard-earned money?
I know I've asked myself that a ton of times over the last number of years. What's up, everybody? I'm Mitch. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel, Fit for Moto. So great to have you. Now, in today's episode, I have two sets of goggles here. I have one cheaper entry-level set of goggles, and I have one more expensive higher-end set of goggles. We're going to compare the two. We're going to try and decide once and for all if it's really worth spending your hard-earned cash on the more expensive goggles, or are these going to do the same thing and for a lot cheaper? Roll the intro and let's do it.
Starting off with the packaging, the price difference is apparent. Where the cheaper goggles have a cheap plastic case, the more expensive goggles come with a magnetic case and a goggle set in a mold.
Let's be honest, the case, it's a nice to have, but it's not the meat and potatoes of what we really want to know about buying a higher end pair of goggles. Although I will say it does speak to the difference in quality immediately compared to the cheaper entry-level goggles, for sure. There are a ton of differences between these two things though, the second you put your hands on them. Okay, so right out of the box, there's a couple things we can talk about that are the differences between the two goggles, the entry-level and the higher-end goggle. First of all is the lens removal system. With the entry-level goggle, all you do is pry the upper and the lower part apart and the lens will just pop out. Again, I showed you in that other video, but it's a pretty basic system. That being said, it always stays in place. I've never had one of these lenses pop out before, so yeah, it's not super convenient, but it's not that difficult either. With the higher end goggle, the lens removal is really pretty easy. There is just a little latch on either side of the goggle. You pop those up, the lens pops out, Bob's your uncle. Chuck the new lens in, put it into place, click it in on both sides and you're set. So the lens removal is a big bonus when it comes to the higher end goggles. Next up, I want to talk about the lens themselves. The lens in the more expensive versus the cheaper one, it's a much more robust lens. It feels a lot thicker and a lot better, honestly, in quality than in the cheaper set of goggles. That being said, again, I've never had anything go through one of these or any sort of, objections to using these types of lenses. They've always been pretty good for me. So this one feels like better quality, but I've never really had a problem with these ones either. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about some foam. Now, in a previous video that I did about the goggles, I did talk about the differences in the foam. Some goggles have a single layer of foam, like this one here. It's pretty nice, yeah. It'll fit on your face, and it feels pretty good. It's pretty comfy. I've worn these for a couple years now, no problem at all. The higher end goggles, however, have triple layer foam on them. That's kind of important if you're a big sweater. It'll actually pool a lot of the sweat, drain it out of the goggle, whereas these ones might have a little bit of a problem letting it run down into your eyes. Again, just like the lens, not a problem for me. I have no problem with sweat running into my eyes. I'm not a big face sweater, so the foam is nice, I'll say that. It feels nice. The lens. It feels nice against my face, sure, but so does this one, honestly. So, yeah, if you're a sweater, that may be something you want to consider. Not really that big of a deal though. Moving on, let's talk about the band themselves. Now, I'm sure you've probably noticed that the lower end entry-level goggle has a much smaller band than the higher end Armega goggle has. It's quite a bit thinner. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not, but does that really matter? Well, here's the thing. Both bands have the same amount of sticky on them to actually hold that helmet, or hold that strap to your helmet, sorry. So is the bigger band better? Well, it depends. I think it's cooler. It looks a lot meatier and thicker, and I like it a lot more as far as appearance goes. But once again, I've never really had a problem with this band either. These goggles always stay put on my helmet. I've never really had an issue with these ones, so it's another thing to consider.
The replacement lenses are no exception when it comes to price. They cost a lot more as well, so if you find you replace your lenses a lot from wear and tear, or maybe you crash a lot, it's something to consider. Even the tear-offs have a step up in the packaging. When you put them side by side, it's pretty obvious which one is on the higher end setup. Yeah, that's a small thing, but sometimes it's the small things that make you feel a little more factory.
Okay, so what's the final verdict? Well, honestly, I've never run a higher end set of goggles like these Armega ones over the last few years. I've just been running these entry level, cheaper, I think they're called Stratas, is that right? Yeah, the Strata 2. I've never really had a problem with these, but you can feel the difference in quality the second you put these higher end goggles in your hand. You know, the packaging and stuff aside, because whatever, that doesn't really matter, doesn't really help us when we're out on the track. It has a better lens removal system, it has a little nose protector, it has tri-foam compared to the single foam if sweating is a bit of a problem for you. It has a nicer band on it. But these ones also cost 35 bucks, these cost 100 bucks. So what's the final word? I would say it depends on your budget, and I know what you're thinking. I was hoping you'd say which one was better. It completely depends on your budget. These are a nicer goggle, no doubt, that's why they're their higher end goggle. However, these do the trick. These will work just fine. I've been using them for years, and I quite like them. So I would say it just completely depends on what you're comfortable spending, and go with that. If you want to treat yourself, get a nicer pair of goggles that look cooler, for sure they do, I'd say pick up their Omega. If you're on a bit of a budget and you just need some goggles that still look really cool, but maybe don't have some of the flashy stuff that the higher end ones do, these will do the job just perfectly fine. Hope you liked the video, hope it helped you in some way. If so, smash that subscribe button for me, you know I appreciate it. Stay safe, ride safe, keep clear vision. We'll see you in the next video.